What's going on, guys? So, welcome back to the channel. As you guys know, my name is Walter. I'm learning how to code just for the fun of it. We are doing free code camp. Um, and I had completed this whole build a recipe page, as you can see here. However, rookie mistake, my mic wasn't recording. So, I will put this at the back end of the video of me doing this because I did record it. There's just gonna be no audio, but you're gonna see me go through the full section. But I didn't want to just leave it out because I did go through it. Let's see if I can go through it. Did it? Um, I mean, I can redo it, but I feel like that's just a waste of time at that point. Um, yeah. But anyways, welcome back. Like I said, guys. So the goal today was to finish to build the recipe and then the HTML fundamentals. But since I did the build a recipe page, what I'm gonna do now instead is I'll go ahead and do the HTML fundamentals along with the bookstore page. Just because I feel like it makes more sense that way. Um, because I do want to capture as much of this as possible along, with just me learning. Because that build a recipe page was actually pretty interesting, although it's very basic. It's just HTML. There's no CSS or JavaScript there. The fact that I was able to, do all of this, right? And I struggled a little bit, and that was the main portion of why I did want to showcase that, because I did struggle just because I forgot how to set up a full page. Because this has no what you call it. It wasn't really hand. There was no hand holding there. It was a lot of me actually just doing it on my own, the full setup essentially. Um, Everything from the doc type tag to the HTML tags and body tags. A lot of stuff that's been covered, but it's like it's funny because you're setting it up on your own. So it was, when it's not there for you and you're starting it essentially from scratch, even though this is more, it's in a sandbox territory. It was a good memory jump starter because I didn't want to look at the preview. I wanted to actually remember, did the meta have like a closing tag, or if although there's no sound, you're gonna see me like struggle. I'm gonna be messing around. Don't know which one has a closing tag, which one has a regular tag. Um, and so that's why even though there's no sound, I hope there's a little bit of insight there as to like what I was going through. You could probably see my facial expressions change. Um, so there's that. But that was a good maybe 30 minutes of me just doing that. But, you know, nonetheless, we're going to push through it. We are going to be doing the HTML fundamentals here, and then we're going to build that bookstore. And, yeah, I'm actually, even though this is just the HTML portion of it, I'm actually excited because I was looking earlier too. Once I could become good enough, I want to do some of these coding challenges, some of these daily archives or whatever. I feel like this is gonna be very interesting. Um, and so I'm ready for that. I actually no, I'm not ready for it, but I'm excited to learn that again, and how to do those return loops, for loops, whatever the case is. I haven't really dug into it since I started this. Like I said, I'm just taking it one step at a time. But here we go. We're gonna go back into the HTML fundamentals. What are the div elements and when should you use them? So the div element is used as a container to group the other elements. Here's an example of a div element or div element. Another paragraph element inside the div element, and see the changes in the preview window. To see uh, to see the previews, you will need to enable the interactive editor. Okay. So you'll mainly use div elements when you want to group HTML elements that will share a set of CSS styles. You'll learn more about CSS in future lessons and workshops. Even though the div element is commonly used in real world code bases, you should be careful not to overuse it. There are many times when another element will be more appropriate. For example, if you want to divide your content into sections, then the section element would be more appropriate than the div element. Another section element below the first one inside the section element, an H2 and a paragraph element. You can use whatever text you like, and you'll see it change in the preview window to interact with the example. You will need to enable the interactive thing. Okay. Section. Um. Okay. What's the difference? There's no real difference there. The section element has semantics meaning over the div element, which is not semantics. Semantics are the meaningful are the meanings of words or phrases in a language. In HTML, which is a language, elements have their own semantic meaning too. So this means if you see section element, the browser will pick up its semantic meaning and understand the treatment to this as a section on desktops, mobiles, you name it. What semantic meaning does the element? It doesn't have one. What is the most appropriate time when dividing this? When grouping related elements, when grouping related content for styling purposes. Which of the following HTML elements is commonly new distinct sections? Cool. All right. So what are IDs and classes, and when should you use them? An ID attribute adds a unique identifier to the HTML element. Here's an example of an H1 element with an ID of title. Below the H1 element and H2 element with an ID set to subtitle, you can write whatever text you like for the H2 and you will see the changes in the preview window. To interact with the example, you'll need to enable the interactive editor. Okay. You can reference the ID of title within your JavaScript or CSS. Here's a CSS referencing the ID of title to change the text the color to red. Um, because the ID is here, and you can see here in the so anything that has a pound sign title will have the color red applied to it. That's why the ID here in the movie here is showing as red. So the hash symbol in front of title tells the computer that you want to target the ID with this value. ID names should not be used more than once, and they should always be unique. Another thing to note, ID values is what they cannot have spaces in them. Here's an example of applying words main and heading to an ID attribute. Hmm. Browsers will see this space as part of the ID and will lead to unwanted issues when it comes to styling and scripting. ID attributes values should only contain letters, digits, underscores, and dashes. In contrast to the ID attribute, the class attribute does not need to be unique and can contain spaces. Here's an example of applying a class called box to a div element. Hmm. If you want to add multiple class names to an element, you can do so by separating the names by a space. Here's an updated example applying multiple classes to a div element. Here's an example of applying multiple classes to the development. Some CSS has been provided to you in this interactive example. Don't worry about trying to understand the CSS code because you will learn more about that in future lessons. If you want to change the color of the first and third boxes, enable the interactive editor and clicking on the CSS tab and change the background color red to background color black. Hmm, where is the IDs? Okay, for anything with a box. So anything with a blue box IT tag is gonna be black. Okay. So to recap, when you use an ID versus a class, classes are best used when you want to apply a set of styles to an element. If you want to target specific elements, it's best to use an ID because those values need to be unique. When should you use an ID versus a class? No. When an ID uses multiple and uses, oh, here we go. Okay, what happens when you want to use the same ID more than once in your HTML? It can lead to unwanted results. Um, which of the following is not a correct value for the ID attribute? The one with a space in the name. Cool. So, what are HTML entities and what are some common examples? An HTML entity or a character reference is a set of characters used to represent a reserved character in HTML. Let's say you wanted to display the text, "This is an image element" on the screen. If you want to use the code currently in the editor, it won't display results even if you added a source and an attribute asset to attribute to the element or to the example. It would show an image in the middle of the paragraph, not the desired result. To interact with the example, you will need to enable the interactive editor. Let's say you wanted to display the text. I'm not quite sure what it's asking. Oh, I think it just wants to show this portion of it, the IMG portion of it. So when the HTML parsers less than the less than symbol followed by an HTML name tag, it interprets it as HTML. Oh, that's why you're not seeing this portion. To fix this issue, you can use HTML entities. Here's an example using the correct HTML entities for the less than and greater than symbols. Now that you can see this is an HTML. Enable the interactive editor and try adding below the paragraph element. Okay. Hmm. LT, GT, less than, greater than. Okay. These types of character reference are known as character references. Named references start with the ampersand and end with the semicolon. I didn't even notice that. By using the names of character reference, the HTML parser will not confuse this with an actual HTML element. Another type Another type of character reference would be the decimal reference. This character reference starts with an ampersand and the sign, ampersand sign, and hash symbol, followed by one or more decimal digits, followed by a semicolon. Here's an example. You can use oh, okay. The last type of character reference would be the hexadecimal numerical reference. This character reference starts with an ampersand, hash sign, and the letter X, then followed by one or more uh, ASC 2 hex digits and ends with a semicolon. Here's an example of the hexadecimal. This is the omega symbol. No, this is euros. This is the omega symbol. It says ampersand hash x 14 semicolon. Let's just go. What is this? So it's this that got printed, but I don't know what that means. Okay. What is the three types of character references? Hexadecimal, named, okay, decimal. Which of the following is the correct syntax for a named character? Named character. I think it's this one. Ampersand, hashtag, amp. There we go. What role of the script element in HTML and how can it be used to link an external JavaScript file? So the script element is used to enable executable code. Most developers will use this executable JavaScript code. JavaScript is used to add interactivity to your web page. Common examples of using JavaScript: interactive games, image sliders, and dynamic forms that validate user input in real time. Here's an example of the script used in the HTML document. Remove the double forward slashes from the alert. Welcome to um, welcome to Free Code Camp. Okay, you guys see that? Okay. When you can technically write all your JavaScript inside the script tags, it's considered best practice to link an external JavaScript file instead. Here's an example of using the script element to link the external JavaScript file. Hmm. The source attribute is used here to specify the location of the external JavaScript file. Source stands for source. The reason why it's not encouraged to place all your JavaScript inside the HTML is because of separation concerns. Separation of concerns is a design principle where you separate your program into distinct sections that have section address of a separate concern. In this case, we want to separate our JavaScript code from our HTML code. Which attribute is used to link the JavaScript? Source attribute. What is separation of concerns? Design principle. Okay. Which of the following has correct syntax for an external JavaScript file? This one, because it has the source. Perfect. Okay. And then next, we're going to go ahead and build this bookstore. So it looks like it's going to be 19 steps for this. So we will be building this. Looks like XYZ bookstore. Browse our favorite collection of the amazing books, Sally's Sci-Fi Adventure. I'm assuming this is everything that we're looking to do right now. Looks like we're gonna be building a button too. So we're gonna start coding. All right. Oh, this is a little bit different than the last one. I don't know how to make this so where you guys can see it. Because unfortunately, let's do. Can we do that? Do this. All right. Yeah. All right. That should be fine. You guys could see pretty much all of it. I don't know why this doesn't want to. That should work. All right. So, in this workshop, you're going to build a bookstore page by creating book cards that display different information about different books. You'll practice organizing content using the div element classes and IDs. Start your bookstore by creating the HTML boilerplate. Um, Dog type, HTML. Okay. HTML. Okay. And just for the simplicity of it all, head. Okay. All right. Cool. So got that done. Second second step now, we're gonna add the title inside the head element. All right. Um, XYZ bookstore page. All right. So there's that. And then here we go. And then we're going to add a language tag to the HTML element set to N. Okay. LANG. Okay. And inside the head, I'm going to do the meta jar set. This is the part that when you guys see the end of the video, that sort of threw me off. And then lastly, add a body. Okay. Bam. Okay, and then in this step, we're gonna add an H1 with the text XYZ bookstore because it is in the body. We're gonna indent this and it says XYZ bookstore. And then below the H1, we're gonna add a paragraph element. Uh, It'd probably be easier if I just copy and paste it, but you know, who cares? The div element is used as a container to group other HTML elements. You will be mainly using the div element if you want to group the HTML elements that will share a set of CSS styles. Below the paragraph element, add the div element. This div container, this div will be the container for your books. So, okay, did that. All right, and then the class attribute is used to divide or used to identify one or more elements for styling. Unlike the ID class names do not need to be unique. Multiple elements can be shared by the same class name. Add a class attribute to your div and set the value to card container. So class equals card container. I think that's it. Yeah, that is what we needed to do. Okay. You can add multiple elements inside of a div element group related content. Inside the element having a class of card container, create another div element. This div will represent the first book card. Um, I think it means to do. I might be doing this wrong, but equals card. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. It's a lot of encasing right now. The ID attribute adds a unique identifier to the HTML element. Each ID should be unique within a page and should only be used once. The ID values cannot contain spaces and should only contain letters, digits, underscores, and dashes. Here's an example code. Okay. Add an ID attribute to your element having the class of card and set its value to Sally Adventure Book. Add an ID attribute. I'm a little confused right now. What is it asking? Add an ID attribute to your element. This? Sally Adventure book. Is that it? Oh, that is it. It's so confusing. I'm surprised they didn't just say add it to another one. Okay. Inside the first element, having classic card, add an H2 element. H2 Sally's sci-fi. This okay. So we are good there. Um Now below the H2 element, having a class of card, add the P element with the existing text. Okay. Um the button element is used to create a clickable button on a web page. Buttons are interactive elements that can click to perform actions. Add a button inside the element that has a class of card. Give the class attribute set to button. I'm assuming button. I think this is what it means. I could be wrong. It says buy now. Let me know if I did that correctly. It looks like that's what I was supposed to do. Add a button inside the element that has a class of card button. I think that's correct. Okay. So it looks like that was the correct option there. I wasn't quite sure. That's a little, the wording is a little confusing for me. It's been a while. Now create a second book card. Add another div to the element class. Set to card. Notice how you can reuse the same. Um, I think it's just having me do another one. CRD. Is that what it meant? Okay. So we just made another div class. Okay. Add an ID tag, ID attribute to your second element, having the classic card and set its value to Dave's cooking book. Yes. Like that? Okay. I guess that's what I was supposed to do. Inside, um, inside the second element, having a card class. Hope you guys can see that. Having an H2 element with the text, just cooking book. Cooking adventure. I just can't read today. Nothing crazy so far. I'm gonna actually just make my head a little smaller so that I don't have to keep scrolling down every page. Um, and below the H2 element, add the paragraph title. E. Okay, that's good. And then inside, we're probably just gonna do the same thing. We're gonna add a button at this point. TON. Um, class as the button. BTN. Okay, and then so this one says buy now as well. Cool. Okay, we're just cruising right now. Below your P element, create a div element with the class that says below the P element, create another div with the class attribute as button contain. Okay, okay. Below the P. What's it talking about? Here. Yup, below the P element, create a div. I think that's what it meant to do. Um, so it's saying create another element below the T or the P, so which would be right here. And then so I created this div class or this div by itself and gave it the container, BTN container for the class. Um, didn't say to put anything in it, so we're just gonna leave it as such. Sorry. Below the P element, create a div element with the class. The newly added P element should be below the element with a. I don't know where to put this. Mm-hmm. Maybe that? No. Oh, I don't know. Run test. The newly added PL. Your P element section. Review your sections. Check out. Your div element having should come after the newly added P element. I have no clue what that means. Let's see here. Talk about after this? No. I have no clue what I'm supposed to be looking for. The newly added P element should be below the element with a class. What is it talking about? Below the element. I am a little confused, but this might be what it meant. No. What is it saying? Below the thing. Below the element with the class card container. Mhm. Oh. Whoops. That was housed within class container. There we go. Oh my god. I was putting. So I should probably do that. So I was putting this within this class container div, and the only reason why I figured that out because if I actually think you guys can see it here, when I click on this div that has the container, the class card container, you'll see that the closing tag also highlights. And then so that's why I was clicking on it to see where it was. And then just reading on this, it sort of confused me. Um, I thought I had to create the P inside the card container, then I had to create the div underneath that, which I was doing, but I was still within the card container div. So this is just needed to be separate. Um, that took a while. So inside the element with a class of bit container, add two buttons that says elements. The elements, okay. So we're gonna add two buttons right now. Okay. Class equals the BTN, and then we're gonna have the ID equals view cart button. Then it's gonna say view cart. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna do. I wonder if there's a difference, or if there's some. If does it matter? I don't remember anymore. If the class or the ID has to come first, or if that even is something to be worried about. I just don't remember. Um, but regardless, we're gonna do this. Okay, so that should be good. View cart button, everything. Cool. All right. Oh, I guess we finished. Um, but yeah, that was a little bit of a challenge there, getting all that done. We did struggle a little bit. Um, but I think from there we should be good to go. We got through quite a bit today. We built the cat app, or no, we didn't build the cat app today. We built the recipe page, and then we went through all the HTML fundamentals, and then we just recently built that bookstore. Uh, although the cat app, no, I would say the building a recipe page was a little bit more interactive because I had to start it from scratch. But I mean the bookstore did add a few more elements into our wheelhouse here, our tool belt with the buttons and the IDs and classes. Even though we haven't started any of the CSS work, that is good stuff, as you can see here. Once we get past this portion of it for the responsive web design, we should be able to go ahead and start moving forward uh, pretty soon here. So semantic HTML, forms and tables. So I'm excited. But yeah, guys, you guys like to see me struggle. You guys are yelling at me to the screen, whatever the case is. How many typos I had wrong. You guys like that kind of thing. Uh, Feel free to go ahead, like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.